Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the bench. All right, sort of going through, just finished checking power in the top part in the head to make sure all the wires going through are working. That looks really good. Happy with that. Did have a bit of disaster. I guess I want to share it. Embarrassing as it is, I typically keep all my components that are loose over on another table. The reason is I like to work on one piece at a time. And what I was doing, I was opening up these passageway slots on the engineering section in the back, clearing this material out, and on I'll call it a soft cloth piece of paper to help collect dust, and it got caught. It brought in some wires off of one of the nacelles and wound around my Dremel at high speed. Made a bit of a mess, ripped one of these nacelles, the wires out of the nacelles. It chucked the wire about 15 feet away. I'm sorry, the nacelle 15 feet away where I found it, as well as some other components. So I do have a picture of it. I'll try to see if I could post it on YouTube. It made a bit of a mess, unfortunately, but got everything patched up, and now I am going forward of trying to get this settled and closed up. So first, because there's typically never instructions as how to handle where to run wires, etc. These, if you remember, I have wires for the two lighting beacons in between. This is the wires coming from the deck. It's all secured on the, from the head. It's all secured on the inside. Give it a little bit of compliance so that if I could just put that in. I'm noticing that this is sort of separating when I do install it, but it lets me loosely get that in and then put that in. So that's just for a little bit of compliance. Looks like I could trim up some flash, as you could see here, and probably help with that. Do that right now. So the other thing I am doing is, I'll do that rest later. The other thing now I'm going to do, I have all the wires running through the engineering center. I noticed that with that, when I run it into the engineering hall, I'm going to, through this, they're all going to come through this channel down into the bottom. I'm going to have to paint the inside of that white so that you don't see the wire. So couple things. This is the base of the model, and if you notice the warp nacelles are on. I like to do clamps, so you can see I have my clamps here. The other thing I like to do is hot glue. So I do have my hot glue ready. It's nice and warm and it's ready. So what I do is I'll install a mixture of polystyrene glue as well as hot glue. So when I did these warp nacelles, for an example, I put polystyrene glue around this opening, and at the ends here I used hot glue. You can actually see a bit of the hot glue oozing out there. I'm going to go through, clean all this up. I decided I'm going to do my touch-up work in pieces like this because I can't get to the middle portion. So I'm going to do what I said I will before. I will take all my loose pieces, put them off to the side. Don't need this just yet while this is curing. Again, hot glue works. I do like clamps. I also like using blue painter's tape. That's another thing that I use to hold everything down as a clamp. So right now we're going to get to gluing this part of the ship together. I like using the typical red testers. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to put glue in certain areas, and I'm going to use hot glue in others, so we could have sort of a mix. When I do put my glue, you have to remember that the base of this is actually on the inside, not on the edge. This is a new bottle, so it does like to squirt everywhere initially. So I've been dealing with that. I'm going to bring this into the edge here. Here on the leading edge, I like to put stuff on the inside. So not much. I want it all to ooze on to the inside of the kit when I glue it together. Just want a little bit, and hopefully most of it should go on the inside. So just put it right on that edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue these portions here, here, and in the back, and that's where that's going to go together. So let's do this quickly. All this is just going to get dropped in directly. Everything's secured. If you notice, I do have the wires sort of dangling on here, but I did secure everything with glue. Again, secure your mounting points with glue. Because I did this in that warp nacelle, it saved me from ripping that warp nacelle open when it fell apart. So highly recommend. It keeps the stress off the actual joints and it makes your kit last longer. So hot glue time. I'm going to hot glue us here. I'm going to hot glue us here. Hot glue us here. Hot glue us here. Got to drop this in quickly. And of course, the wires just love to get in the way. Gonna have to find those pegs. Found the locating pegs, and I'm in. Now, I'm gonna clamp this, and so that everything, this is hot glue, so I'm gonna just hold it down as tight as I can so that cures. Could use a clamp. You got to be careful with a clamp. Sometimes they like to destroy your paint surface, so just be careful when you use these sometimes, because you could run into problems. So I'm just going to go through, glue down and clamp down with the hot glue. The areas that I'm installing. So do I want to put the head of this in yet? Not exactly into this joint, because this part also goes into the bottom portion. I want to sort of see what I have in long term and judge that as to what extra work that I'm going to have to do. Again, I'm going to have to go in, if you can see all these gaps in here, I'm going to have to go in probably with canopy glue somewhere. Have my canopy glue to fill up the gaps. And one thing that I do different is the type of syringe that I use. Got it here, a real syringe with a real needle. Take off the needle, suck in the glue, and then you could use, this is what you use to poke people with. That gets into a lot of spaces. So I'm going to keep that ready, and I'm going to use that and draw that across. So by now, that hot glue, I'm a little bit high here. The hot glue should be cured. Again, I don't like keeping clamps on too long without protection. So I will cover this up. Again, I'm against the clock here. Clamp down here. Another clamp here. And do the same thing at the other end. Again, hot glue is going to hold you down. Keep it steady. Well, the rest of it glues. Now I will leave this overnight. I do like my insurance policy because I'm looking for more clamps that I cannot find. Lovely. But it should, again, hot glue does the job. Tape will also work too, but I'm looking pretty good here. I am nice and flush to the kit. You could also use this tape to hold things down. Everything is nice and flush. The head is fitting in. You can see it sort of separates, but I'm going to clean that up and you can see how that's going to close. And that is it. I'm going to try to find a couple more clamps, clamp this bottom area in, and that's it. So working on sealing the two halves with the problem when you start to use when you start to have kits, found them. When you go through kits like this that are sort of made for lighting and sort of aren't, there isn't any instructions for this. But best advice that I have is just work through your steps over and over again. Fit it, see if it works. Also check your lights in between. Once you fit it, make sure that everything works. These little clamps, they're a couple bucks from Home Depot. Make a world of difference. So that's it, everybody. I'm gonna let this sit overnight. Come in and try to pass this through the engineering hall, do a little bit of paint, and off to getting it all put together. So hope you enjoy it. Keep on learning, everyone. Thank you.